At Rio Tinto, we have a center of expertise in human rights. The way the company approaches this, it's better ways to mine and process materials. It's better ways to take care of the land and respect our host communities. And also one that's close to heart for me, it's better ways to improve inclusion.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jerrod Downey. Today we have on the show one of the top 5 global mining companies. So this is a very special episode, and it's right timed during CIM, which is a major partnership we have with Mine Now, where we produce, I think last year was like 24 episodes on their event floor in over 2.5 days. So it's a major event for us, for the mining industry. And we have today a powerhouse in the mining industry, Rio Tinto, and representing them, we have Jamile Cruz. She is the Director of Joint Ventures and Brazil Country Manager at Rio Tinto. Jamile, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, for having Rio Tinto speaking at the show. I think it's an exciting time. CIM, we are part of it. We're here, right? One of our offices is in Montreal, and CIM this year is in Montreal. It's exciting to be part of it and be talking about everything that we are supporting and trying to achieve. And we're going to talk a little bit about our purpose. So finding new ways. To me, the collaboration and the discussions on an industry event like CIM conference, it's a big way of doing it.
I got asked a question. I was actually being interviewed, and I got asked a question because we do construction episode, or like a construction series as well. And I got asked the question, what is the difference between mining and construction? And it's funny because in mining, you'll actually see sometimes more public pushback on a mine, but construction is way more disruptive to people's lives. I live in Vancouver, so I know all about it. It is a major thing that is, there's towers going up and roads being shut down and bridges being built. You never just drive from point A to point B in a city. But yet,
talk about Montreal.
In Montreal, yes. My parents got stuck down there with a motorhome a couple of years ago.
I can imagine.
So, and my answer is, I think one of the things is it's just not connected to a lot of people. So they really just hear whatever it is that is put out about a mining operation, good or bad. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times the negative stories can kind of get put out there, and it's an easier story to push in media. And so one of the things is just bringing that conversation to people's lives so they actually hear about it. So the first thing I want to do is commend Rio Tinto, because you're actually on the show. You are one of the biggest players in the globe for mining. And you're actually here on a YouTube show that's long form that people can just literally pop onto YouTube and it'll go up into their feed and they're seeing it. And I have a question right off the top for you. What is that shift? Because I will say, 6 years ago, operators were not coming on our show. We were a smaller show, granted, but that long form conversation on the public domain was not really part of it. Why do you think that is, and why is it important?
I think there is a recognition of the mining sector as a whole, and you can see that through ICMM and with other big mining associations, that I think we need to recognize that the open conversation with the public maybe was something missing, and we needed to improve this discussion and get to the point where people actually know what we're here doing and what mining is about. I did watch the episode where you talk, I think, with the cementation group, and they're discussing even health and safety, right? And the numbers, how different it is, but we get the bad rep. For sure, I think there needs to be the recognition of the potential disturbance to the environment, to communities. And yes, mining is done within a setup where most times that land where we're implementing hasn't been touched before, or if has been touched, it's going to be in a different way. So through the construction of a mining company or of a mining business or a refinery, for example, you're going to disturb quite some, like a big portion of the land, and that it will have an impact on the community. That's going to have an impact on the environment. But I think we never talk about the positive impact that mining has in our everyday lives, right? So when we talk about construction, for you to get to construction, you probably need many mining setups first, because for you to get to steel, you need to have passed by an iron ore. Right. So there is like a whole set up in society where I feel like we just missed the educational piece where people really understand what mining is there for and how do we get to the elements and materials to build the world we're talking about. And I think for Rio Tinto, this exercise of being more open, more transparent about the culture, about our ESG commitments, about climate change has been the recognition that we need to speak openly and talk about the communities that host our operations.
Yes.
Talk about the challenge that we might have with climate change and how we're addressing it and the need for new technology. So I think when we put targets and set goals where we're saying, look, we're going to try to get to net zero, or we're going to get to net zero by 2050, we need to recognize that a lot of that technology might not be existent today. Mm-hmm. And for us to get there, we need to start talking maybe with other industries, with technology companies. We need to get everybody involved for us to get there. So I think there is a lot of work to be done. And I think I'm, as a director of joint ventures for Rio Tinto, I see a lot of that. So joint ventures, it's that, right? It's a partnership. It's an agreement to work together to get to a final product or to get to a final thing that we all need. So I think when we talk about technology, when we talk about the leadership of a company like Rio Tinto to get to the future of mining, meaning the future of the society we want to live in, talking about energy transition or any of these elements, they will need mining. So then I think this conversation of us being here on your podcast and talking to a larger public also comes around the talent. For mining to succeed, we need to continue to bring people and new minds and new mindsets. And I think that passes through attracting more people to mining. So I think there are many elements there, but I think the openness and the transparency coming from essentially the need to look into the future.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Orica Digital Solutions. ORPRO 3D is purpose-built for rapid grade control optimization. Quickly simulate blast designs, generate mining polygons, and classify material with confidence. And Corporate Traveler Canada, helping companies travel the globe simpler, faster, easier. We're heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's Heavy Industry Tour. The global demand for critical minerals is surging, and North America has a rare window of opportunity. With permitting barriers starting to lift, now is the time to mine smarter, faster, and closer to home as the nation looks to onshore manufacturing and strengthening national security. Burns & McDonnell is helping lead the charge. As a 100% employee-owned firm with 125 years of experience, they turn complex mining infrastructure visions into reality quickly. Their fully integrated EPC delivery streamlines every step of the process, from permitting and power to water treatment and automation, shifting risk from owners and accelerating speed to market. They understand federal funding and compliance so that fast-track projects don't just go operational, they succeed. They feel every mining project should do more than extract resources. It should empower communities, create jobs, and help build a stronger, more resilient America. When speed, certainty, and impact matter, trust the team that delivers. Visit burnsmcd.com/mining. Engineered for certainty, built for mining. As heavy machinery specialists for mining, SMS Equipment knows performance, like the performance they achieve together in a partnership dedicated to the success of their mining customers. At SMS Equipment, they're more than machines from trusted brands. They're the people beside you today and every day, bringing industry-leading technology and expertise to your mining operation. Because the right partnership makes everything possible. SMS Equipment, partners in your possibilities. Discover what's possible at smsequipment.com.
Well, you touched on it, and you said that essentially the world needs mining. People need mining. But mining needs people, too.
100%.
If you look at the workforce, roughly women make up about 50% of the workforce. I think they make up about 14% of the mining workforce in Canada. And not just women. If you walk down the streets in Vancouver and talk to a lot of people, if you said, well, what if you were to pick a industry to be involved in that is high paying, secure jobs, all these things that technology driven, all the things that mining offers people, I don't think you would get 10% of people saying mining. I don't know if you'd get 5, to be honest.
I think there's a study from 19, I think. They go around universities in the United States asking students from engineering courses like where they want to work. And mining, I don't think was ever cited. So
No.
it's a problem, right?
It
We
is a
need to
problem,
do
yeah.
a better marketing job, essentially.
Yeah, well, I will say then, with that in mind, those were great answers. It's thank you for coming on the show. I want to paint a little bit of a picture for people. I mean, a lot of people know Rio Tinto, but even myself, when I was going through the list of, doing my research, I went, oh, that's their project. I don't know if a lot of people will realize the scope. Can you just maybe do it in stages? Let's go globally. Can you give us an overview of the reach and the industries they're serving?
100%. So Rio Tinto, I actually joined not too long ago in 2023. And lucky me, I joined when Rio Tinto was completing 150 years. So I joined in a year where, together with the celebrations, there was a lot of reflection around the history, around what has been achieved, also about the future. So who do we want to be? How do we set our targets? So 2023 was, I think, a very special year for Rio Tinto, just being able to sit with that number, right? Not a lot of companies in the world, I think it's a very small percentage, gets to be 150 years. So understanding that kind of the starting story with, it was named after the Red River mines in southern Spain. And today being this global mining and metals leader with we're operating in 35 different countries with over 57,000 people worldwide. Our portfolio, it's iron ore, copper, aluminium, and a range of other materials. Now, I think the latest announcements has been around our lithium business unit. So it is exciting. And when you look at a portfolio, you do look into the support that Rio Tinto as a company with these materials will provide for the nations to grow and prosper, right? And for the world to be able to achieve the energy transition targets that we all have been setting up. So to me, this concept of Rio Tinto always searching and really being diversified and trying to grow with different portfolios. And it's a continuous work, like in Brazil, where my scope is I work directly with RTX. So RTX is Rio Tinto exploration arm. And when we look at that for this energy transition goal, we're currently exploring 8 commodities in 18 different countries. So it's very exciting to see that you have operations, very solid operation that's been operating for many decades. And then also see a very engaged group that's looking for the new, looking for opportunities. So I would say that's kind of what I've been learning, and it's exciting to be part of Rio Tinto.
Canem is a leader in steel fabrication and construction, delivering tailored solutions for commercial, industrial, institutional, and multi-residential projects. With 60-plus years of experience, they offer a wide range of products: steel joists, decks, structural steel, prefab building solutions, and more. Backed by expert services in BIM, engineering, and project management. Visit canem.com to learn more. CIM is Canada's leading technical institute dedicated to the sustainability of our industry. Members enjoy professional growth opportunities through CIM libraries, publications, webinars, societies, and the job board. Experience the CIM community firsthand at the Conference of Metallurgists, August 19th to 22nd, ICARD, September 16th to 20th, and the CIM Health and Safety Conference, October 6th to 8th. Visit CIM.org for more information and join CIM today. Who is Savana Equipment? Savana Equipment Limited is a buyer and seller of new, used, and refurbished industrial equipment with a focus on mining and construction. They find, market, and sell surplus and used equipment. Does the equipment need work? They can refurbish. Is there something you can't find? They source those hard-to-find items. Selling equipment? They buy, consign, and broker equipment and asset packages. Need equipment moved? Savana Equipment manages logistics for worldwide delivery. Surface and underground ore processing, concentrating, and refining plants and equipment, power generation and electrical, pump, material handling, alluvial-placer gold mining, recycling, and much more. If you need to buy, sell, find, refurbish, or move equipment, you need Savana Equipment. Savana Equipment. More equipment every day. Visit them at savanaequipment.com. Orica Digital Solutions seamlessly connects customers' physical and digital worlds so they can readily understand and optimize operations at every step of the value chain, from exploration to processing. Blast IQ Underground provides quality control and improved underground drill and blast productivity for superior blast outcomes. With the ability to view design, loading, and initiation documents in a central location, Blast IQ provides easy access to historical and key performance indicators that drive continuous improvements, enhance productivity, and reduce the overall cost of operations. To learn more about Blast IQ Underground and how it can support your operations, visit orica.com/Blast IQ Underground.
I should mention, I think they operate, I was looking for my notes, you also operate 8 hydroelectric power plants and have 2 research centers. So that's outside of just the mining side too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a very large portfolio of things.
How did you end up joining them, if you don't mind me asking?
I've been in mining for 20 plus years now. I've been in Canada. I'm originally from Brazil, and I moved to Canada and I joined an engineering consulting firm, and that's how I kind of got into mining. Mining, I did copper, I've done cobalt, gold, and yeah, I've done a bunch of things. Quite some time in Saskatchewan and potash as well.
Okay.
And then also kind of a career on consulting, management consulting, engineering consulting. So Rio Tinto is one of those companies that it was there because we all kind of learn about it when you participate in mining, but I hadn't touched yet even as a consultant. So the opportunity came up. I was working on my own consulting firm. I owned and operated a consulting firm for 5 years. Yeah. So very focused on strategy and culture of mostly mining companies. Like I think we passed through a phase where was recognizable that we needed to change a little bit the culture in mining to be able to plot the future. So I worked with many organizations on setting up their targets around talent strategy, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really like a shift on the culture as a whole. So then when Rio Tinto reached to me through one of my mentors and someone that I respect a lot was Angelina Mata. She's a mining engineer who's been working mining for a long time as well. She reached out, said, there's this position in Brazil that I think it kind of fits your profile. I love working with external partners, but also having a very specific target to engage people and get them excited about doing something. And I feel like that's the work with joint ventures. We oversee a large portfolio, but there's always the opportunity to really collaborate to get to do the best. So you bring best practices from different groups. Also, there's a lot of like political engagement and really getting into defining kind of the strategy and the strategic objectives for the future. So it got me very excited about this position and being able to work with Canada and Brazil, which has been my life for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's how I got here. So it's been 2 years and a bit now and very good so far.
Just quickly, based on what we were talking about before, how did you actually end up originally in the mining space? What was the decision point? I'm assuming when you were coming out of a high school that took that direction.
My dad actually worked in an oil and gas company in Brazil, Petrobras. So I grew up actually going to a refinery. They used to brand is amazing, which I think every mining company should have something similar. They had summer camps where the kids of the employees actually had the opportunity to at least do a tour of a refinery. And I looked at that and I just thought it was amazing. So my goal was actually to end up in oil and gas. But then I studied telecommunications. My city in Brazil, I usually compare it with Waterloo of Canada. So like it's a technology center, a lot of engineering schools. So I think my path from telecommunications to electrical engineering was already written before I decided on it. And I also work for aerospace. So I did Embraer, which for people in Montreal, they always knew because it was a direct competitor of Bombardier for multiple years. So yeah, I did engineering, and then I thought it would be good for my career to work abroad for a few years and really get an international experience. And with that, one of the engineering consulting companies from Canada purchased engineering consulting firm in Brazil, in São Paulo. And they wanted Brazilian engineers to come in to Canada and learn their ways. So on that, I came in, ended up in an Inco project in Newfoundland, and then Vale bought that project, or Vale bought Inco, ended up at Vale. So anyways, then the world happens, and here I am.
It's so interesting to hear people's journeys because you had a general direction, and then the world just
Exactly.
kind of.
I feel like mining happened to me. I didn't choose mining. Mining chose me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up in it, so it's you know, I mean, I love it. I literally talk about it every day on the show. So, what I want to do, okay, I want to switch over now back to Zoom, and this is sort of tied in. I mean, it's a Rio Tinto feature, but it's tied in with CIM, which this year, where if you're watching 2025, is in Montreal, then it goes back to Vancouver. So CIM is this. They have events throughout Canada throughout the year. So maybe let's talk about just local or on the Canadian level, Rio Tinto, but then I want to zoom in even closer to go Quebec specific because that's where CIM is going to be this year. So could you, what are the Canadian operations?
So in Canada, we're the largest metal and mining company with over 4,200 employees across 35 sites, mostly in Quebec, and then Newfoundland, Labrador, Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. So we have a lot of things here, right? Iron ore, aluminium, diamonds. And we operate, as you mentioned before, 8 hydroelectric power plants across the country and 2 research centers. I actually have the chance to meet Sylvie a few days ago, and she runs the research center here and in France. And it's just amazing to see a woman who's been in the company for I think she's in the company for over 20 years and working very exciting technology, right? So she's connected to hélices, she's connected to a lot of the new and upcoming projects in Rio Tinto. And yeah, so we have all of that. So hydropower, mine sites, refineries, melters, and hydroelectric plants. And as an employer, we've been recognized as Montreal top employer, one of Montreal top employers, one of Canada's top 100 employers, top employer for younger people, which is very exciting to see because, as we mentioned, young people are not choosing mining. So having that recognition and walking around the Montreal office here, we have, I think, 4 or 5 floors right next to Bell Center. And every time I have a chance to participate in one of the local events, you can see the diversity and the different dimensions of generations and races, and like it's quite impressive to walk around our offices here.
I want to switch into some of the climate responsibility initiatives and the focus for Rio Tinto. But I want to just quickly ask, I'm going to say it wrong, so I'll let you say it. It's the MRN joint venture project with Brazil. And I actually wasn't aware of it, so I'd love for you to just explain what that is.
For sure. So as part of my role at Rio Tinto with joint ventures, I actually oversee some of the assets in Brazil, and these assets are joint ventures in partnership with other corporations. So both of my assets that I oversee, so the mine, the bauxite mine, and the alumina refinery are joint ventures. So Mineração Rio do Norte, which is MRN, it's in the Pará state of Brazil, largest bauxite mine in Brazil, and provides great quality bauxite for our refineries, which feeds essentially in our smelters and essentially produce the aluminium that we provide to the world. So MRN has completed 45 years this year, I believe. So long-standing mine, was a discovery from Alcan, and they continue to do a very good job as understanding their position of operating the Amazon. So dealing with the communities or creating a relationship with the communities that's very respectful, and reforestation, right? We understand the disturbance we cause to the forest. So the programs around seeding and reforestation is quite impressive as well. So yeah, so MRN is one of them. And the other is Alumar, which is an alumina refinery with Alcoa in South 32. And MRN is with Glencore and South 32.
With Glencore, they're coming on the show as well soon. So you've kind of helped me do the pivot into responsible climate control. I mean, and change in mining. If you talk to people about why they don't like it, it is the disturbance. That's the issue. It's the issue on the local level. I do feel like there has been, just in Canada, I think in the United States, I can't obviously, don't other countries, I'm not sure, but there has been a shift. I feel like people are more, they are starting to understand the need for mining more and more. But I'm wondering, what is your approach? What is the Rio Tinto approach? You've only been with them for 2023, so if it was longer, I would ask, how has that approach changed? But I won't put you on the spot for that one. What is the approach now? How are you looking at it?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that are very connecting or engaging for people at Rio Tinto, I know at least it's the truth for me, it's the purpose of the organization. I think we went through this phase where organizations were changing their visions and missions for purpose, but I feel like here, every single thing we do in decision making has that as its core. And the purpose shift a few years ago into finding better ways to provide the material the world needs. And to me, and the way the company approaches this, it's better ways to mine and process materials. It's better ways to take care of the land and respect our host communities. And also one that's close to heart for me, it's better ways to improve inclusion. So it's something that positively impact our standards on safety, risk management, sustainability, and all the points that we worry so much and we already discussed that the industry or the mining sector as a whole, it's needing. So when you think about purpose, I think that fits into then the starting of the targets, right? So from a climate change and carbon emissions or the whole exercise of decarbonizing, we've made commitments to reduce by 50% scope 1 and 2 emissions by 2030 and to reach net zero by 2050. So with that comes a lot of the investment. So investment in new technologies, I think I've mentioned before, right? Most of the technology that we need to get to the net zero by 2050, they don't exist. So I feel like if you look at the portfolio of investments and research and development that's currently happening and the partnerships, that's the intention, right? To create the new technology, to create new ways of mining, to reconfigure the processes that we've been using sometimes for 50 plus years, to really rethink the use of power, the way things are being done today, to find new ways. So I love that that's the purpose, find new ways, because I feel like that moves the people working here, the talent, the partners to really, like, that's the challenge, like status quo no longer is good enough, right? So let's figure out new ways.
How do you keep, this is a big question, but how do you keep the industry motivated though? Is it there's obviously climate controls that come in from, let's say government, but that can change. A government can come in and they can switch their policy and that can go away. So how do you think you keep that as a culture to drive that change, even if the approach to mining changes, positive or negative? It doesn't really matter. As an industry and as Rio Tinto, how do you keep that culture of driving that change?
Yeah, so our CEO has been very clear with the targets and the goals. And one of the things he says, it's that decarbonizing our assets, essentially de-risk our business. And it also opens up commercial opportunities as we expand our role in providing low carbon materials. So I think there's a move not only from investors or government in new demands, but it's also like as end customers, right? So if you're buying a car today and you're thinking about getting an electric car and you want to understand the materials used in your car, and if you're like really want to be quite serious about every single thing that went into that specific vehicle, you're going to start demanding new things. And to demand new things, then you're going to go all the way to the producer, the primary producer, which is the miner, right? So when we think about the end user consumer or the new government criteria, I think we all learn. We learn as miners, we learn as government, so much that the rules are changing, right? We're transitioning to new licensing processes. We're transitioning to new ways of validating kind of what we're doing. Like, I feel like if we look into a licensing process for a new mine 10 years ago to what we're doing now, things are completely different. So I think that transition comes with everybody getting more educated, everybody learning more, everybody understanding that we're being directly impacted by climate change on a daily basis, essentially, right? So I think there is more understanding of our role in society and in a better understanding of what society expects.
So you've been in the mining space though for about 20 years. So I can ask this question not in regards to Rio Tinto, but just in the general, if you've been in the industry that long, is how do you think on the local level it has changed or still needs to improve? And this really is not genuinely is not a question specific to Rio Tinto. It's as an industry culture, because industries do have cultures within themselves, right? So where do you think the industry still needs to improve on the local level? And what do you think has improved?
So to me, the understanding of the mutual benefits that we can have, and then working together to develop the criteria to how, or the rules of engagement, I think it's a big point, right? And I think to me that lands on respect. So that understanding of the host communities, of coming in and doing proper consultation and explaining kind of your plans, understanding how they see impact, like proper impact assessments where people can get involved and understand the potential benefits, but also understand the potential negative impacts, and then working together to mitigate those. I think that is a thing that has been changing, right? Like, I think our behaviors as mining companies have been changing to really be open to have this discussion, and an open discussion, a transparent discussion. This is the assessment of the environmental impact. This is what can be brought to your community from a social impact. This is what the potential benefits, being royalties or being taxes and everything. So education, like hospital, like the mine that I just mentioned, we run kind of the biggest hospital in the area, right? Like the more with the more access to doctors. So we don't support just the mining company that's set it there, but it's also the communities around it. So I think that mutual benefits and working together to define those, it's been changing. And I think, like, when we think about Canada and Rio Tinto, it's been a path of recognizing the position of First Nations groups, for example, and really understanding Indigenous peoples and their needs and what has been done in the past, what needs to happen for the future to be in a better setup and with more understanding. So I think that's a big thing, right? Yeah. Mining, it's a pretty large industry, but I think the bad rap comes from potentially a little like lack of communication in the past. So I think we're becoming better communicators as well, and bringing the right people. So if you went to a mining company, I don't know, 20 years ago when I started, yes, we had the environmental people as part of engineering consulting, for example, but not to the levels we have today.
Right.
So I think the advancement of having, like at Rio Tinto, we have a center of expertise in human rights, and I talk to them quite often. So having that level of expertise in-house to say, here's what's expected of us, here's what civil society expects of us. So when we're designing this project, or when we're thinking about going to this new country, or when we're thinking about making an agreement with this community, here's what we need to respect, and here's what we need to know. So we have specialists for all of that. So we don't have just mining engineers. Like, we have a multidisciplinary group who is really here to support the best development, not just for us, but for the communities we land.
Again, you can pass on this question, but it is, I don't get to interview Rio Tinto every day. So how do we then get to, or does what you're talking about help us get to a global standard? Because, you know, I've been to countries where mining has not been done right. There is no way around it. It has just not been done correctly, especially at the local level. And then there's other countries where it's just done at such a high standard. You know, you're talking about hospitals, roads being built, dams, like all these things that come along that just elevate the community. There is a great way to do it that is good for everybody and good for the world. How, and I mean, you're one of the five major players in the whole entire industry. So does what you're talking about get us closer and closer to a global standard that you can't be a part of the mining industry if you don't live up to this standard that I think 95% of us in the mining industry expect?
Fair question.
Easy question.
Definitely not easy, but I think there's a lot of people working on that.
Yes,
right?
there are.
So when you get into forums like ICMM, for example, or MAC in Canada, or CIM in Brazil, IBRAM, you get groups of people, representatives of these mining companies, whose intention when you get together, it's not just to make the next big mining project happen, right? We talk about industry standards. I think coming together after the issues that we had with dam failures, for example, in Brazil, and then landing on something like GISTM, where we go from, okay, this happened, it could have happened to others.
Yes.
So let's all get together and set the right standards so this doesn't happen again. So you see that happening in all fronts. I think the tailings is a good example, but then if you look at health and safety, right? Like when we do our board meetings, for the joint ventures or for Rio Tinto, like we look at those numbers. We look at those numbers on a daily basis, on a monthly basis. So from a health and safety, from the metrics on emissions, for the metrics in land usage, water usage, all of those are being tracked. All of those are becoming more standardized and getting into sustainability reports. I feel like the industry, when one starts raising the bar, the others have to raise the bar. And the fact that we're more open to collaborate and sit on these forums and say, what is the right thing to do here? How do we get this best practice to be the practice that everybody does? I think that's when we all help each other get better. So I would say there's all these forums. There's also certifications that are required now. So I'm in the aluminium side. So some of the agreements that we have with some of our partners and even for our mines, we said the basics for us will be ICMM. So ICMM, essentially, it's moving towards this global standardized protocol where it goes from community engagement to environmental to metrics around the environment and net zero. Or nature positive, how it started. So when you look at ASI for the aluminium, so the aluminium stewardship, so all of those are coming with that goal of exactly what you asked, right? How do we get everybody to move in the right direction and have safer operations, have operations that respect the environment, that respect the communities, that essentially what all of us, I think, when people think about mining, they think about the big trucks. They think about this big setups. At the end of it, mining is about people, right? So I'm sitting here talking to you as an engineer who became a business leader. But when I go to an operations, that's it. The person who is checking the quality of the bauxite before we put on a shipment, it's like a technical engineer who decided that that's going to be her life. So the mining operator, it's the same. It's someone who took the license, who said, this is what I want to learn how to do. And it's sitting on that truck, moving the ore to the crusher. So all of those steps, even though we think about this large equipment, these large operations, there are people in every single. Of course, we're moving a little bit far from it, trying to do more remote operations, take people away from areas that can be safer if we do in automated ways. But at the end, there's still going to be someone moving that robot sitting in a room, right? So I think that's the whole thing about mining. Like every single corporation, every single organization, they're made of people, right? Yeah. So I think when we sit here, when we sign up to do this job, it's not to hurt the environment. It's not to hurt the communities. It's to provide the materials the world needs on the best way we can. I didn't study engineering to trying not to do the best design that I ever done. Every time that I see to write a report or look into something or approve a PO, it's with the intention of doing better.
Yeah, and the automation for anybody who's sort of with the increase in the demand for mining and automation, there'll be more jobs, not less. It's not how it works. Anytime anytime processes improve, it improves the industry and then improves the demand for people. That's how growth happens. I wanted to ask you, just in being mindful of time, I want to ask you, I want to circle back to women in mining because, and I'll just ask the questions bluntly because rather than try to like come up with this perfect way to ask it, other industries have, in the educational space, that I don't know what the exact stats are, but it's pretty par. The medical field, there's these spaces where it's par or close. Engineering has been one of those that has never sort of seemed to get there. Mining has not got there yet, and there's different reasons for that. So, and in mining, I think is doing a really good job of trying to attract women. I think being more public so that it's just more front of mind is a great thing. But from your perspective, why don't you think more women are joining the industry? Why is it sort of at this 14%?
It's a great question. I think when I go towards the action plans and the things that are still needing to be fixed, I think some of the answers are there. I think if we start with, I think it's the theme of our conversation, with the lack of communications or the communications being a certain way. I don't think mining has communicated over hundreds of years that it's a place for women, right? So I think we're still on that transition phase. We're still speaking to different groups to say, you can also belong here, you can come work here, this is going to be a great career. I don't think we've done that for 100+ years. I think we've been starting to do that on the past 5 years.
Which is not very long. I mean,
not very long at all, right? So I think that's the thing. We need to accept that it's a transition phase and it's a very long-term strategy, right? It's not a switch that you turn on and suddenly you're going to have 50% women. It's not how it's going to work. When I studied engineering, it was a class of 66 with 6 women. So when I walk into engineering groups nowadays, I still don't see a full mix. I think there are some engineering disciplines that has more women, but if you're going to mining engineering, it's not one of those.
Well,
right?
Yeah, if you're 6 out of 60, that was about 10%. And now we're talking 14%. That was 20 years.
Yeah. So I think there is definitely a lot of work to be done in terms of education, in terms of really attraction, right?
Yeah.
And I think it passes through a lot of the things we already discussed. So education about what's mining, what type of careers you can have, what can that, like the impact that it has. But again, it's not just mining, right? So I worked in technology for a bit and they had the same issues. Banking, if we think about traditional bank, yes, there's a percentage of women, significant percentage of women, but you go into investment banking, it changed the game again. So I think there's a lot of layers to society where women was labeled as, here you're okay, here you can join in, and here you cannot. And I think we only started this discussion a few years ago. So I think it's going to take time for us to really make a difference. But I think we are making a difference. So Rio Tinto, for example, I think has done a lot of work in terms of understanding the issue and putting together plans where we recognize the challenges and we challenge ourselves to make it better. So I don't know if you had a chance to see and read, but Rio Tinto published a report that was called Everyday Respect in 2022. And that report came from this commissioner in Australia, where she interviewed a whole lot of people in Rio Tinto. And Rio Tinto essentially was transparent about the issues on the culture, right? From discrimination to challenge on the respect, everyday respect with people. And from there, last year, 2024, they issued a review of that report. So new interviews showcasing the trends and the changes. And I think on that report, you can see how this is a long-term strategy because yes, there was changes. People are more positive. There are things that were fixed, but not everything was fixed. There's still a lot of those challenges in place. So I think that acceptance that it is a long-term game and we're going to be here for a while discussing this. So to me, when I walk into a board and people are saying, oh, we hit our target around women recruiting last year, or we hit our target around communities involvement last year. Maybe this year we don't need it to put it. I was like, we didn't remove our target for production. We didn't remove our target around health and safety. So why are we removing that target? Do you really think 1 or 2 or 5 years is going to fix the issue? So to me, I think we still need to go into the acceptance that this is a long-term plan and we're going to be on this for a long time and we need to continue to work on it. So I think that is one of the recognitions that I would love to see, that I don't think we're there yet, because I think one of the things that you get from some groups is, we're already talking about women. Can we move on? And I'm like, no, we cannot. We haven't fixed it. And there is no other issue within mining or within any other industry where you try to fix for 2 years and you're like, oh, we're tired of talking about this. Let's change the subject. No, this is a subject that if we recognize as an issue and we really want to tackle this challenge, we're going to be on this for a very long time. Just like we're setting up research and development, new technologies, and we're trying to fix our operational costs. This is going to be in the agenda, and we're going to continue to work until we really fix it. So I think that's one of the recognitions, but again, it passes through a lot of the topics we already discussed today, from promoting the industry with a different lenses and really creating the opportunities all the way on the educational level, right? We need to bring it down to opportunities like me. Like, I saw a refinery when I was 8 years old, and I'm like, okay, if my dad works here, why can I not work here? So I think we need to create opportunities for little girls and little boys, because we're missing people in general, to really recognize the industry as a great place to work and come and join us.
What's been rewarding about it for you on a personal level? What has sort of kept you in the industry?
I think when I joined this engineering consulting firm 20 years ago as a young engineer, and I saw how mining was designed, because I was like, I think the first study that I joined was like an FEL2, which is an option study on how you can potentially build this mine. It was just so impressive to me how, as a student of electrical engineering, I could see from the process engineer to the mechanical engineers to the civil engineers, then electrical to instrumentation, how everything needed to be connected for you to put a mining in place. And the opportunity to participate from that exercise of like connecting all the dots to an estimating exercise to the whole plot of how you come to finally get to construction and then
actually
commissioning.
An unbelievable thing. It really is.
It's like, if a lot of people had the opportunity to participate once, I think we would have so many more people joining mining, because it's fascinating.
Agree. Yeah, I do. And I think, it's all, we have to like find a way to switch the image of the mining trucks, which I love. But
yeah, I don't know why people like those big trucks. I don't.
Exactly.
Honestly, I think it should be a very different image.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I've got a little girl, and I will sit in a coffee shop and I will watch the little boys point at the dump trucks, and they'll hear a siren and they're looking around, and my little girl, she still has not registered that they're going by her. So there's some differences, and you need to, in any sort of marketing you need to find different streams that connect with different people of all personality. And it's not men or women. It's different ways that people connect. Some people connect on the tech side. Some people connect on, grabbing a wrench. Some people love doing that. Some people, the mechanics, whatever it is. And I do think, though, the mining industry is getting much better at doing it. Before I let you go, I wanted to actually ask you quickly about this, the Women in Mining organization that you're a part of. I just kind of wanted to give them a shout out and just, let you kind of mention what they do in the industry as well.
Yeah, so Women in Mining, which is not only in Canada or Brazil or UK, it's pretty much in almost every country that have mining as a big industry. So I started as a director of Women in Mining Canada. Canada actually has Women in Mining Canada, but also has Women in Mining Montreal, Toronto, Yukon, like they're everywhere, BC. And as an organization, the intention is to educate, to get more women involved in mining, to really inspire more people to join this amazing sector, but also to get mining to be more open and change the culture towards accepting and embracing more women. So with my participation in Women in Mining Canada, I actually met some amazing women who then on the communications through PDAC. So PDAC is something that I've been participating in many years. We were connected and we said, how come Brazil doesn't have women in mining yet? Women in Mining Canada actually had an action plan to include more women in mining, issued in collaboration with the government of Canada in 2016. And essentially the agreement between this start of Women in Mining Brazil and Women in Mining Canada was to take this action plan and adjust, ensure it was related to or relatable to the companies in Brazil to advance the participation of women in mining in Brazil as well. So we set it up in 2019. The launch of the action plan with the launch of the organization was at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. So we actually did a pre-launch at PDAC. And then unfortunately, COVID started. So we did the launch already on the kind of live at YouTube in 2020. I think it was April 2020. And since then, it has been a very productive group of volunteering women really making a change. Shout out to Patricia Procopio, who is the current president. Essentially, we set up, because of the start was with an action plan with 8 strategies to say, hey, companies, if you do want to be more inclusive, if you want to have more women participating, here's how you do it. So here are the strategies you need to figure out how to implement in your organization. So we called a few CEOs, and the call to action was sign here and let's make sure that you can implement this. So I think they have, I'm no longer on the board. I'm really connected, but I don't sit on the board anymore. But they have tons of mining companies who signed this call to action and who participate actively. And we did a partnership back then with Ernst Young, who essentially on a yearly basis produce a report checking the status of these KPIs that were set based on these 8 strategies. So it was a very smart way of connecting the corporations, getting them to work together, and having a way to actually standardize metrics to say, if we're all agreeing that we're doing this, let's do it, let's measure, because it's one thing that I think we all recognize what's important to us, we usually measure, right? So having the metrics, having people having to report on an annual basis. This year, I think, was the 5th year where we're publishing and ensuring that people know the advancements or what needs to be worked on. I think it's a very successful project that I'm very proud to be part of.
It's very exciting to be in an industry now, and we didn't time it. It just sort of happened, that has so much drive. It's like the little thing like construction in terms of in terms of accidents, construction, and we have a construction show. I love construction, but in terms of just the numbers, there's way more accidents in construction, not even comparable numbers. And mining, I use it, but the mining industry never uses it. They just say, no, we're going to be better. It's a really special thing that the industry is doing. They're just saying, we are going to be better. And it's just everywhere I look. And it's not just on when people come on camera. I have these similar conversations in private. So I see the genuine desire for it, and that people are learning and trying to figure out how we're going to do it. And there's such a big demand. Mining is not going anywhere like that. It literally might be going to space. So we have a real responsibility in the industry to make sure it is sustainable. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for answering some of the curveball questions I threw at you. Just again, I don't have Rio Tinto on every day, so there's some questions that I was excited to ask. So thank you for those, and I certainly hope we do it again. I really appreciate it.
No, I think we have a list of people that could be very impactful talking about the work. I don't think we got into me describing some of the amazing projects that we're working that is technology focused. And I think to your question on where can we engage people and make mining more attractive, to me, when I read about some of these projects being Alice's or Newton or start tagging, A lot of this, I think, once people read about that and understand that this is what mining is trying to reach, or this is what we're trying to do, they might get really connected, right? Even on the concept of recycling, like on the aluminium business, like reuse of the tailings. Like there's so many projects that are like, you can say they're not trying to do good things when you look into how we're redesigning the future, right? Going to legacy projects for copper, for example, and trying to recover the copper without having to spend so much money into designing new mines. So there's so much going on. I think it's a very exciting time to be in the industry. I think for me, it's a very exciting time to be part of Rio Tinto. I think because of the type of work I was doing before, I question a lot going back into industry and if what kind of company I wanted to work for. These 2.5 years has been very refreshing to see that there is a lot of people trying to do good things, and Rio Tinto, for sure, with the groups that I'm involved, I've seen a lot of goodwill, a lot of engagement on trying to really flip the page and get mining to the next 150 years, right?
Yes, very well said. Thank you. I hope we do it again soon.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. I mean, with that, there was probably 3 topics or 5 topics in there that could have been their own shows. But we do only have so much time to do these interviews, so we're going to leave it there. But thank you for watching. Make sure to check out Rio Tinto. We'll have links, as well as the guests, a link to the guests' LinkedIn as well, if you want to connect directly with her. Thank you so much. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.